Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another very special, as always, episode of the Hyper-Conscious Podcast. We hope you enjoyed our latest episode where Alan and I sat down. We did a 5-minute clinic on passion. Today, for episode number 272, we are going to do a small talks episode on burnout, and I'm not talking about the car.
Oh, wow.
You like that?
Strong work,
Thank
strong
you,
work.
thank
So
you,
before
thank
we
you.
jump into this episode on burnout, I want to talk to you a little bit about a little event, not a
little
little event, big event called Top Notch Live 2020. If you go to www.topnotchlive2020.com, you will see the landing page. Thank you again, Tiffany, for making that.
Yes.
Folks, 8 speakers. Registration starts at 8 a.m. Full day, full immersion event. 2 Q&A panels, one in the AM with the AM speakers, one in the PM with the PM speakers. You're going to learn about motivation. You're going to learn about natural health and fitness from myself. You're going to learn about the hyperconscious mindset and cultivating confidence from Kevin.
This guy.
You're going to learn about faith and finances from Britt Franks. You're going to learn how to tell your story from Brant Pinvidic and much, much more. You're going to leave that event with a full workbook, 8 goals to set for 2020, and an actionable strategic plan under each. Do not miss that event.
Fire. And if one of your goals in 2020 is to start a podcast, I am your guy. Looking back 2 years ago, my life is 100,000% different, and this behind me is the reason why, the Hyperconscious Podcast. Starting a podcast can start so many things for you, but make sure that you're going to be able to be consistent and you're in it for the right reasons. I can help you do that, and if one of your intentions in 2020 is to get fit and jacked, Alan is your guy for peak performance fitness coaching.
Thanks, brother.
You're welcome.
All right, let's talk about burnout.
Let's do it.
We set an intention, as we always do, in the preamble on the whiteboard over there. The intention for Kevin was to make you know that you're not alone if you're experiencing burnout. Can you go into that a little bit?
Yeah, so you know me. So another thing, just to be transparent, when I'm on podcasts, I always try to level set. Like when I'm a guest on a podcast, I try to level set and tell them that the person you're seeing is the shiny product. This is the person who has been doing the personal development, has the 5 o'clock habits, all of those things. But I wasn't always this person, and I'm not always this person.
Right.
Right? Like, when I go to bed, sometimes I'm overwhelmed. When I wake up, some days I don't want to work. Right? So I just want to start with that. And that's why my intention for this episode is to let you know that you're not alone. If you're in the holiday season and you're working really hard at whatever it is you're working at, but you're also working super hard at making connections and keeping up with your friends, whatever it is for you, if you're overwhelmed and you don't feel like working, if you're not motivated, if you don't feel like you have clarity, you're not alone, because the reason we're doing this episode is because I feel the same way.
So what's an example of a time when you felt burnt out and you were just like, I don't want to do this right now?
2 days ago. I woke up and I didn't do my normal morning routine. It just, the push wasn't there. The pull wasn't there. I just didn't feel like it. And it sucks because it's like, you almost kind of, so I think there's a couple stages of burnout. I think if you feel like you're getting burnt out, I think you should do things that fulfill you.
Right.
Because I think, very similar to being overwhelmed, I don't think overwhelm is always too many things. I think a lot of times it's too little clarity. In burnout, I think you've just been doing things out of necessity and not out of desire. And for me, like, again, I told you, I haven't rapped in months. I don't even know the last time I wrote. I haven't been doing any form of Muay Thai or boxing. I haven't been doing any form of sparring. I haven't really been doing, like, spending time with Taryn and doing things like her. Doing things with her have been nice. Doing things like her. I can't say that. That's been awesome. Like, I get very fulfilled from that. But in terms of, like, a solo kind of fulfillment where rapping for me was, like, going to my own little place and doing that,
right,
I haven't really gotten that. And then I've been dealing with injuries in my body. So
I was just going to say that.
Yeah,
Fitness
I haven't felt great there either. But maybe that's you. Like, maybe you've been working so hard starting your business or so hard at whatever it is for you that you haven't been doing the things that you were doing along the way that you loved. Like, don't get me wrong, I love podcasting. Podcasting is my jam. I love teaching others how to podcast, but I love rapping, and that's just something I haven't done. I love Muay Thai. I love sparring, and I just haven't had the time. So much of my life has been necessity versus desire, and yeah, I think that's what leads to burnout, for me at least.
One of the things I think we should talk about too is like how do you know that you're getting burnt out? Because if you can anticipate when you're approaching burnout, like we'll often say to our clients, like you're headed towards a crash or a trough.
Yeah.
And let's anticipate that in advance and mitigate it so that when you do burn out or when you do hit that trough, that downturn, we can bounce back quickly.
I think it's different for every person. I think for me, well, if you feel less motivated than normal,
Right.
if you're not doing your habits and you have an excuse. If you've been like really consistent on something and you start coming up with excuses of like, I'll do it tomorrow, it's this time of year, I'll do it after this, maybe you're getting burnt out because you're doing so many things. So I would try to go back to basics.
You know what I do when I get burnt out? I just realized this. I go to an inspiring movie that makes me emotional.
Yeah.
And it kind of like brings me to that trough that I know I'm headed towards already, and it gives me a reconnection to my why power. Like I was recently experiencing burnout not long ago, and I watched The Last Samurai, and I was crying, and that's a really powerful movie for me. If you haven't watched it, I highly recommend it. Great movie. But like after that, I did feel like I really started to climb again. I don't know if that will help anyone, but if you have an inspiring movie that gets you emotional, that might help.
I think reaching out to somebody too.
Yeah.
Because if you're like me, you're proud. You have pride. You don't want to admit that you're burnt out. You know what I mean? Because I pride myself on being somebody who can work. And again, I'm still working. I'm still doing stuff, but it's not
Right.
It's not at
the
my
level.
standard.
Yeah.
You know? And I think one of the worst things you can do is try to push through it because you're not going to be as productive. You're not going to feel as good about your work. Like maybe you need to take a breath. That's fine. It's fine to take a breath, especially if you're taking a breath in order to get after it the next day. And I think that's the advice I would give. When my clients are burning down, I always say go back to basics. Go back to basics. What are the basics that you have to get done to make sure that the boat still floats? That's what you should do.
Right.
And seek some sort of fulfillment. Do something that makes you super happy.
Right.
You know, like go snowboarding. You like snowboarding? Go snowboarding.
Right.
Take a day, leave your phone in the locker, and go snowboarding.
Fire.
You like writing music? Write a song. You don't have to record. Just write. You like art? Just draw something. Just go wild and spend a couple hours drawing something, and don't worry about anything else.
Solitude, whatever fills you up.
Right.
If it's a fun, unique experience with others, do that. If it's solitude, do that. But I think the only wrong answer is to just keep doing what you're doing and hope it'll change.
Yeah.
Because it's not gonna change necessarily.
You got to know yourself too. I mean, we always say like expect it. It's gonna happen.
Oh yeah.
It's gonna happen. That's the other intention I set. Like this is par for the course. When you're doing more than you've ever done, and you never really level set. Like we always say, you level up and then you level out. We tend to skip the level out part. We just like level up and then we say like we get a week there and we're like, all right, what's next?
Well, because as soon as it becomes even remotely, so when you add more to your plate, it's challenging.
Yeah.
And then we have growing pains. And then usually there's a week or two where it's like we're trying to figure out how to make this sustainable. The moment that it becomes sustainable in our consciousness, we level up again.
Yeah. I don't know that I would suggest that for all people.
Right. Yeah, we don't level out as long as we level up.
No. And maybe
I don't know if that's like bad. I don't know.
I don't know that it's bad, but I know that you have to pay the piper eventually. Because remember, this time, so this is a great episode to be doing at this time. A year ago, we were in Florida.
Right.
And I think this is the time where I was burning down.
Yeah.
You had your burnout like 2 weeks in. I made it like 3 weeks.
Right. Yeah.
Why were we burnt out?
Because we were doing so much. There was so much new. It was just too much. But that also set us up for a hell of a 2019, which, by the way, we're going to do next week. We're going to do a year-in review like we do every year. We can say that now.
I know.
We do that every year
And
now.
we want to help you. We made a list in Florida last year, and we're going to find the list because it's in one of the videos on the website.
Yeah.
And we're going to go back and figure out what we wrote down, what we accomplished, what we didn't or what we accomplished that we didn't write down, what we didn't accomplish, and how important setting a goal, setting an intention, creating a list, and getting it on paper so you can see it, how important that is too.
Speaking of which, we just did that for 2020.
We
right
did.
in front of us on the whiteboard here is everything we plan on accomplishing in 2020. We'll also share that with you guys.
Yes. I think another thing that leads to burnout is perceived lack of progress.
Right.
If you feel like you're working harder than you ever have and you don't get the progress, quote unquote, that you expected, you might start saying like, what what is the end game here? Especially if you're not super macro oriented like Alan. If you're more micro oriented like I am, it's like I just want to know that what I'm doing is right. And sometimes if you don't get the result, like we've been saying, we haven't focused on profitability nearly as much as we should have.
Yeah, we're shifting that.
And for sure, we're shifting that. So I think
What did I say? Shifting. We're shifting that.
We're both a little fried. A little fried. It's been a long day already.
Give Santa a break.
Yeah.
It's tough this time of year for Santa.
I just think that you should expect to be burnt out because it happens to everybody. And honestly, the people that it doesn't happen to, they're on. I don't want to sound mean, but like they're probably not working to their maximum potential.
Right. They're not stretching their potential.
And if you have your emotions heavily involved,
Right.
it's a lot easier to get burnt out. You're going to get burnt out because you're investing so much of yourself. Like if you have your own business and you have a relationship and you have a family and you're taking care of your body and you're also doing your own personal development, you're doing so many things.
And the holidays.
And the holidays. And if you're not sleeping, like that's another thing. I haven't been sleeping very well.
Well, it goes back to David Meltzer's zones, performance zones. You've got the comfort zone, you've got the learning zone, and you've got the anxiety zone.
Yeah.
When there's too much new, you're in the anxiety zone and you need to seek self-care, whatever that means for you, however you fill your cup. I know that a lot of times we talk about similar concepts, but that's because they're so important. We don't want you guys to think that we're able to just do everything all the time without the struggle bus. Like, Kevin and I, for the last couple weeks, have been really trying to figure out how to do all this. Like, we got a lot of new coming up in 2020. We're going to be hosting 6 live events. We're doing Top Notch Live on January 25th, and then March 21st, we're doing Hyperconscious Live. And the behind-the-scenes work that goes into that, even just from trying to figure out how to do it effectively and how to make this a win-win-win for everyone, the attendees, the speakers, the volunteers, us. We're always trying to create win-wins for everyone, and it really can be a lot. And we just don't want you to ever feel like if we ever make it look easy, it's not.
No.
And it's probably just because we're riding a high.
But I think the other beautiful thing is, like, if you're at the end of 2019 right now and you feel overwhelmed, you feel burnt out, like, oh my God, I had a crazy year. Like, look back on your year.
Right.
And let's get some idea of the accomplishments. Let's figure out where you made progress. Because I guarantee you made progress.
For sure.
Like, if we look back on our year, sure, we could tell you about all the things we did great. But, like, what about for you? Did you get a new relationship this year? Did you have a child this year? Did you buy a house this year? Did you get married this year? Did you get a new job this year? Did you move? You know, like, what did you do this year that at one point
was just a dream?
Right. Like, yeah, am I burnt out? Sure. But I'm also living the life that I wanted to 2 years ago. I remember we were listening to it was probably 3 years ago when I said, like, the life I want is to be able to wake up whenever I want. I get to choose what time I wake up.
Right.
Nobody makes me get up early.
You want to go to the gym every day.
When I want to go to the gym, I go to the gym.
Yep.
When I want a podcast, we get the podcast.
Yeah.
Right? With cool-ass people.
Dude, we have a studio.
Right.
Like, well, not our own studio,
right,
but
not the one
this
we want
one
yet.
is like, dude, at one point we were in my sister's bedroom.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy.
Dude, it is crazy.
But I think that's another thing is, like, am I burnt out or am I just not focused enough on the accomplishments?
Probably both. Well, probably they're
I was
connected.
really hoping you were going to say the second
They're
one.
connected.
Just you're not focused on the accomplishments.
Yeah.
Focus on that and you'll feel fine.
Yeah. I think that's true.
Yeah. I think it makes sense. And honestly, if you are more emotional, micro like I am, you didn't focus on any of the wins along the year. So now you're at the end of the year and you feel like you didn't make any progress.
So we made a ton.
I know.
Progress,
so maybe if you feel burnt out, if you feel overwhelmed, if you don't feel like anything happened for you, sit down and write out everything that you did.
You should do that too.
I probably should do that, yeah. Practice what I preach.
Yeah.
Practice what I preach.
Yeah, we will do that.
It's
actually.
easier
We'll do
for
that
us
next week in the
because
episode.
we can look back on the episodes and we can look back, So make sure that you're doing that. Like, look back on your social media. Look back on your Facebook posts. Look back on your calendar if you're a student of your calendar. That's something that we're going to really focus on getting better at in 2020. But we will save that for the 2020 episode. Anything in closing?
Let's do 10-second blips. Takeaway.
Okay. If you are doing more than you have ever been doing, you can expect to feel more than you have ever felt.
Ah, fire. Fire. I do believe that consistent micro failure leads to macro success. The only way to grow is to lift more weight than you're currently capable of and to learn how to effectively and sustainably lift that weight along the way. Just make sure you spend enough time on mobility in terms of like leveling out, making sure you're not getting injured. You want to stretch the rubber band, but don't let it snap.
That was damn near 30 seconds.
Yeah, it's a long one.
My
Long
goodness.
10-second blip.
Ladies and gentlemen, Merry Christmas to those who celebrate Christmas. Happy Hanukkah to those who celebrate Hanukkah. Whatever it is that you celebrate, I hope you have an amazing one. Spend time with family, the ones you love. Eat all the good food, eat those snacks, and I hope Santa Claus is good to you.
Santa Claus, I hope, is good to you as well. And we will talk to you on the next one.
Much love.
Talk soon.
Bye.